Welcome back. So we continue to look at the court case against Operation Dudula. We are joined by March and March's Nozbusiso Kambule. The Human Sciences Research Council's Dr. Stephen Gordon also joins us, as well as legal analyst Abigail Ngobeni. They've been listening to that conversation with Zandile Dabula, the president of Operation Dudula. And I must implore not just our panelists, but our viewers, because we will be taking your calls and your WhatsApps, that we know that this is a highly emotive discussion, but we ask that we all be respectful and not make sweeping statements, certainly not generalizations, and ensure that we are responsible in how we share our views. I think certainly freedom of speech is allowed, but it needs to be handled with the necessary responsibility. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Gordon, I do want to start with you. You've listened to my conversation with Zandile Dabula, and you hear the arguments that she's putting on the table. One of the things that she talks about is, you know, that not enough. I think there's a sense that they feel that not enough is being done to deal with illegal migrants in the country. But is this more than anything else a human rights issue when you've got an Operation Dudula that is outside of schools, wanting to manage who is accepted, outside of hospitals, wanting to manage how migrants are accessing basic services? What do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. So first we have to understand that to stereotype an entire group of people, to apply broad, generalized stereotypes to a specific group is the very definition of prejudice. So to target foreign nationals and to blame them for problems like unemployment or crime is, of course, a prejudicial act. Indeed, while some members of this community may or may not be the cause of some problems related to our financial and social issues, to label an entire group in such a way is prejudicial. Often the acts of this group veer very closely into what you were describing as vigilante action. The real problem of an operation like this is that it is tapping into deep-seated animosities and prejudices which exist in wider society. We are a nation which have a long history of violence, prejudicial violence against foreign nationals. Actions such as this lend legitimacy to those violent actions and create environments, contexts in which such violence becomes more likely. Even though we have not had large-scale anti-immigrant riots in the last few years, there is, as professionals in the civil society and law enforcement space will tell you, low levels of xenophobic violence against these communities. We need to be working as a nation to integrate foreign nationals, documented foreign nationals, into our communities, to reform and pass comprehensive immigration legislation, as Parliament is trying to do, and create a migration policy in line with our collective Pan-Africanist vision for regional integration. Operations like this take us away from that common path and lead us into a space of prejudice and, dare I say it, violence. It is a very, very dangerous road.
Yeah. You know, I do want to quickly just absolve myself here. I did not use the word vigilantism anywhere in the discussion, but I do get the sense of what you're saying. Nozbusiso, I'm going to bring you in here because March and March is an organization that's coming out of KwaZulu-Natal and Durban, and you have had your own marches and protests wherein you have wanted to raise the issue of illegal migrants just not being dealt with by authorities sufficiently. What do you make of what has come out of certainly the discussion with Zandile Dabula, but what's coming out of the courts as well? The views that some of the actions are harassment of foreign nationals and denial of their human rights, especially when you've got the blocking of basic services. What do you make of this discussion?
Hi, Naledi, and everyone. You know, Today, when I was listening at this Dudula case, basically, there shouldn't be even a case to even begin with. Because right now, what South Africans are experiencing, it's uncalled for. And we have seen the movement, human rights movement, fighting for illegal foreigners in South Africa without even caring or understanding the impact of what the people are crying about. For instance, we have been experiencing a lot of children that are dying because they bought snacks from spaza shops. Who own those spaza shops?
But there certainly was no data, just a second, there certainly was no data that when we had those spaza shops and the children dying, there was no data that those were all spaza shops that belonged to foreign nationals. That data simply didn't come about.
But we know as the community, because we buy in those spaza shops, we are the ones who go to those spaza shops and buy, and we know who is selling in those spaza shops. We know those people. They can't even speak any South African language out of all 11 languages. They can't speak any of those languages properly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to come back to you because we're giving everyone an equal platform here. Abigail, I'm going to bring you in as the legal analyst here. You listen to the discussion with Zandile, and I mean, there's a somewhat of an admission to say that we know that some of our activities, when we go up to a foreign national and we demand that they show us their documentation, we know that that's unlawful. Talk to me about what you make of that, but also just what is playing out in the High Court, the likelihood that you'll see these civil society organizations succeeding in trying to curb some of the activities of Operation Dudula.
Good evening to you, Naledi, and good evening to everyone in the panel, as well as the viewers of Newzroom Afrika. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure.
Well, at the center of everything, Naledi, you'll agree with me that legally speaking, in as much as I understand the sentiments and the social ills that we are confronted with as South Africans, but everything that is done in South Africa should confine itself to the provisions of the law. And anybody that assumes power, particularly if I were to be direct, anybody that acts in a manner that seeks to demand a certain identification, seem to be assuming power that they do not have. Everybody should act on the basis of what they are empowered by the law to do so. And Operation Dudula, in as much as they have admitted in this platform that they do confront people demanding identification, that act that is not covered legally, and there is no basis upon which they can take it upon themselves to confront people. In South Africa, there are institutions that are mandated legally to deal with certain things. So for them to assume certain power from where I'm sitting, they are acting ultra-virus and they are conducting actions that may be deemed, and from where I'm sitting, they are unlawful, as they have admitted. And to be direct to your question, Naledi, I think what is coming to play in the High Court, particularly on this matter, the applicants are seeking something that would be deemed to be a certain level of protection from the court, to say we should protect our rights. South Africa is also a signatory to international instruments that seeks to protect legal and human rights. So in that court, what is coming into play, the applicants are saying, in as much as we are here in South Africa and we originate particularly in other countries, but the rights in the Bill of Rights as well are the rights that we should enjoy. The law should be, everyone in South Africa should be protected by the law and enjoy such protection. So what is coming into play here is it's a group of individuals who seem to be acting outside what the legal prescripts give them power to do.
Yeah, I think the key, perhaps, focus of the discussion is going to be really what sort of limitations there are to activism, community activism, and we're going to look at that a little bit on the other side of this short break. Please do give us a call as well. Share your views on this. The future for Operation Dudula, 0105946010. Send us a WhatsApp on 072-110-5584. We're back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we continue our discussion as we look at the matter that is being heard in the Johannesburg High Court on the anti-migrant group Operation Dudula. That matter being brought forward by various civil society organizations that have accused Operation Dudula of harassing foreign nationals. Taking your calls on 010-594-6010. That number at the bottom there is for WhatsApp, so you can send them to us on 072-110-5584. Let's hear your views now. Gwen is in Pretoria. Gwen, good evening.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for calling. Talk to us.
Oh, okay, I'm good.
Go ahead, Gwen. We're listening.
Okay, you know what? I support what Operation Dudula is doing because, there's no way that illegal migrants can be in our country without papers and be allowed to be running around in our country and selling stuff, fake goods into our people. As a South African, I cannot be allowed to enter to any other African country without having the papers. So why should they be allowed to be in our country? So many people have been dying because of eating, whatever they are selling in their pasta shops. That cannot be allowed.
Okay. Yeah, Gwen, appreciate your views. Thank you so much for calling. Albert is in Gqeberha. Albert, good evening.
Good evening, Naledi.
Thank you for calling, Albert. Talk to us.
Yeah, man, I'm really perturbed about this discussion, man. About this foreign people, man. Really, it's a concern. To me, it's a concern, really. I mean, to any patriotic South African, it's a concern. I cannot really understand why these people are running away from their countries and leave their countries nice and cool and quiet and no violence. I mean, crime is just quiet on their side. But they come to our country with, they just invade our space here, man.
Okay.
People have got no documents to come here. They've got no right to come here. But they bulldoze their way into here.
Okay.
Crossing dangerous river, crossing dangerous forest. They just act like animals, man. They come up to
Okay. That's okay.
Freedom.
I did say that we need to be respectful. To speak about other human beings on a platform and say that they conduct themselves like animals, if that was happening across any other grouping, I don't think anyone would find that acceptable. But Albert, thank you so much for calling. And again, let's correct some of those points that you've made. These are not foreign nationals that leave their countries because they're cool and they're quiet in their countries. These are, in some cases, people that leave their countries because there is severe economic deprivation or war in some cases. So again, but the issue of legality is important. Let's take a look at some WhatsApps. Commander Charlie in Tembisa says, "Evening, Naledi. We are not in this country illegally. We are not undocumented. So between Operation Dudula and them, who's harassing who? They need to do an honorable thing. Stop disregarding the immigrants' laws of this country, period." Okay. Charlie, we appreciate that. Sekukune says, SL from Sekukune says, "Hi, Naledi. Operation Dudula is doing a good job. We cannot have criminals in this country who do not have legitimate papers to be in this country. They can't go back and fix the problems that they're facing in their countries because SA cannot afford to have so many undocumented foreigners." Let's see, maybe one more. Tabo Malachi from Bombela says, "My point of view is if foreign nationals are in South Africa, in South illegally, they deserve no service in our country." Again, there's the constitutional discussion here, and perhaps Dr. Gordon, you can help us with that, right? What our constitution says about how we treat foreign nationals, and that very much going to be an argument that's heard, I imagine, in the court. But there is the fact that, you hear the frustration from our viewers. There is the fact that we know that our borders are porous, and it is leading to, challenges in our community. So what do we do about that part of the discussion?
Well, thank you very much. So what you can hear very strongly from your listeners is a demonization of undocumented migrants. Indeed, if you chat to people about undocumented migrants, framing it from an undocumented lens, people are remarkably negative about migration. If you frame things from a more documented lens, people tend to have a much more positive view about migration, making a distinction between documented and undocumented migration. Now, if we look at attitudes towards undocumented migration in South Africa, we find that people are afraid of a vast influx of undocumented foreigners into the country. How true this is a more complicated question. Indeed, Stats will tell you that the scale of the migrant influx that many people imagine simply is not taking place. We've seen much lower numbers than many people are alleging. Certainly, there are not tens of millions of undocumented migrants living in the country. But your point is about building an immigration system that serves South Africans as conducive to our commitments, not only to our economic and social development, but our Pan-African integration development program, building a strong and united Africa. So we have immigration legislation currently in Parliament. It's being debated amongst these competing interests. But currently, the law is quite clear that documented migrants are afforded legal protections in a variety of different ways, equivalent to those held by citizens. Undocumented migrants have fewer protections, but as human beings, have fundamental rights to non-harassment. They have fundamental rights to accessing certain services and have fundamental rights not to be abused or discriminated against. And while we may feel that a certain legal process should be applied to this group, this process must be conducted within accordance of law. And we must remember not to stigmatize all international migrants as undocumented. There are at least maybe 1.5 million documented migrants in South Africa. They live productive lives, contributing to the wealth and health of our society. We should not stigmatize an entire group.
Yeah, but there is, of course, the issue that it is a challenge. I mean, one that's been recognized by authorities. You might remember in March, after the country was watching the situation of illegal mining in Stilfontein, the police minister going to Parliament and actually saying that porous borders are contributing to illegal mining. So, Nozbusiso, I mean, talk to me about what you take from this discussion, because March and March as an organization has obviously the right to take to the streets and protest what it feels it needs to, particularly around illegal mining, illegal migrants. Do you feel that there is, something to take from the situation that's playing out with Dudula around the limitations of that activism?
Yes, Naledi, look, here in South Africa, everything, it's sort of demonized, if I can put it that way. Anything that is going to favor the South Africans, it gets demonized. And whatever it is that we are doing, no one is prepared to listen to us. Dudula, what they're doing, they're trying to get their voice out there to be heard. Right now, you were just saying, Naledi, that the minister said there's a huge number of illegal migrants in the mines that were mining illegally. And no one is talking about that. There is no human rights society or movement that is saying, let's deal with that. How do we then curb that? There is no one who is discussing that. There is no one who cares about South African when it comes to these human rights associations or movements or organizations. Yeah. They only care about illegal immigrants. They will be the first one to fight for them. Who is then going to fight for the South Africans? And why are they so much interested in fighting for illegal immigrants here in South Africa and not willing or prepared to listen to the South Africans and understand what is the outcry instead of dismissing whatever the South Africans are saying? Yeah, okay. Because I've never heard any civil human rights movement that is saying we are calling upon all the movements that feel like they are not treated here properly as South Africans by illegal immigrants. I've never heard that. Why is that? If they are prepared to work for South Africans as well.
Yeah, Nozbusiso, you are heard, indeed. Let's hear from Robert, who's called in from Soshanguve. Robert, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm well, sir. Talk to us.
Thank you. Now, lady, I have a problem.
Robert?
I have a big problem.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, if in South Africa, they can start with counseling, this thing called human rights, because those people who are illegal in our places, they don't have a human right. And in South Africa, we don't have a judiciary. We don't have a judiciary. You know, they like bribe judiciary of South Africa. That is why they don't care about South Africans. And then the second thing, Naledi, media of South Africa, they perpetuate the illegally to take rights of South Africans. We don't have rights with South Africans. I just pray the Dudula, they can give us a call to make all black South Africans to be united.
Okay.
If you can be united, we can. The illegal immigrants, we can't fail to take them out.
Okay.
If the Dudula and the Patriotic Alliance, they can combine and vote for Patriotic Alliance, we can take these people out of South Africa.
Okay.
And then those,
all right.
those,
Again,
those organizations who call ANC, EFF, and all those things.
And unfortunately, Robert, that is not the job of activists to deport anyone or a political party. That is the job of authorities and immigration officers. That is not the job of an activist. But I need to move towards wrapping this up. I think, Abigail, as we close this off, I mean, you've got Dudula in the courts, but they're not partaking in the discussions, unable to file some of their own documentation, and so they won't get the opportunity to put their argument forward. What are their legal options moving ahead?
Naledi, thank you for that question. I think what came into play in court regarding the legal representative and filing of papers on behalf of Dudula, there has been an argument that was brought forward to say papers were served on them timeously, and if I'm not mistaken, that is 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, on when they were served by the sheriff. And I remember one of the advocates there saying that part of the service was effected thereof by the sheriff of court. And if such kind of an activity has indeed occurred, really, Naledi, in law, when you ignore court papers, you then open a door to live with the consequences of what is being prayed for in those papers. And from where I'm sitting, if the lady that you have spoken to previously said they were aware of the court papers, the question would be, why didn't they file their court papers? Why didn't they file their response? And as it stands, and I think rightfully so, the court then arrived at a decision to say the matter will proceed without them, in as much as the court is satisfied that they were served. So perhaps they should have just to wait on the judgment of the court and see if there are grounds to take the matter further to the highest court, which, from where I'm sitting, they will have to jump the legal hurdles to get to that stage. Okay,
and we'll be watching that process very closely. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated it. Socio-Economic of March and March, Dr. Stephen Gordon, Senior Research Specialist in the development at the Human Sciences Research Council, and Abigail Ngobeni, our legal analyst. We take a short break. Now back in a moment. Stay with us.